Do you believe in karma? You know the idea that if you commit evil, it will come back to you sooner or later. Call it karma, divine punishment, or a boomerang. Whatever name you prefer, the notion of inevitable retribution somehow comforts us and makes us more cautious in our choices. Which is why it's so infuriating when someone guilty of terrible deeds never faces consequences. For example, in the year 2000, a helicopter crashes in Sudan. When people found out who was on board, many rejoiced. Could it be that the leading film propagandist of Nazi Germany had finally gotten what she deserved? We're talking about Hitler's favorite director, Leni Riefenstahl. But no, she survived. Though injured, she made it through. And get this, at the time of the crash, Riefenstahl was 97 years old. Where's the justice? She was interrogated several times, stood trial, underwent denazification proceedings, but was always released. She crossed the African desert multiple times and even went deep-sea diving at a very advanced age. She denied herself nothing. In fact, she celebrated her 100th birthday surrounded by family and friends and died peacefully at 102 in a warm bed, holding hands with her loving husband, who was 40 years her junior. Sounds perfect, doesn't it? But as always, there's one little catch. Her whole life, she had to dodge the probing questions of persistent journalists, avoid the eyes of Holocaust survivors and their relatives, and hide photos proving she had personally witnessed Nazi war crimes. The photos were taken accidentally in the Polish town of Koński during the execution of 19 Jewish men by Wehrmacht soldiers. Published in the late 1940s, the images became evidence. From that moment on, Leni could no longer claim she hadn't seen anything. In 2001, Frau Riefenstahl even had the audacity to travel to St. Petersburg, a city that had survived the siege, for the Message to Man Film Festival. And she was genuinely shocked when her reception was far from warm. Due to public protests, organizers had to hold the screenings behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Leni kept repeating, "Why? After all these years, why are people still associating me with the Nazis? I was just making movies. What's so wrong with that?" Triumph of the Will, her film about the Nazi Party Congress, a film she would spend the rest of her life defending. The plot is hardly engaging, endless speeches and marches, so she had to film creatively. Cameras were positioned from every angle, mounted on balloons and blimps, riding on tracks, weaving between columns of soldiers. No voiceover, just Wagner and Herbert Windt's music. Instead of static shots, a sense of motion, like an adventure film. Triumph of the Will, which took 7 months to edit, turned out to be a powerful visual poem and the perfect propaganda film. Later, she filmed the Olympic Games, again employing groundbreaking techniques, panoramic reportage, subjective camera angles, double exposures. Many of her innovations still appear in sports broadcasts today. At the time, Her films were unforgettable spectacles. The cinematic imagery had a hypnotic effect. You'd watch it and start to wonder, maybe there is something noble and righteous about Nazism after all. But how did a supposedly independent female director in the 1930s gain access to such resources? How could someone be so inspired by an ideology obsessed with racial purity and world domination? To answer that, we must go back to the beginning of her life. You might expect a troubled childhood, but no, her upbringing was materially comfortable. In fact, she was probably loved, though that love was peculiar. Her cold and demanding father had an obsessive desire to mold her into the ideal German woman. Leni was pushed into countless clubs and training programs, expected to not just succeed, but excel. No matter how hard she pushed herself, her father was never satisfied. As an adult, Leni would continue seeking a powerful male figure who would appreciate her endless striving. She first chose dance, studying under the best exiled Russian ballerinas, Eugenia Eduardova and Yuta Klemp. Her sacrifices, stubbornness, and fanaticism led not to a triumph of the will, but to tragedy. During a rehearsal, she seriously injured her knee. Her father had warned her 1,000 times, dance was foolish. One morning, a dejected Bertha Helene Amalie Riefenstahl stood waiting for a train at Berlin's Nollendorfplatz station. A movie poster caught her eye, an image of a man climbing a mountain crevice. It was a sign. She turned away from the platform and headed to the nearest cinema to watch Arnold Fanck's The Mountain of Destiny. She was enchanted. At that moment, she knew she'd devote her life to cinema, even if it meant sacrificing her conscience. She sent Fanck a photo of herself, and within months was starring in The Holy Mountain, a defining film of the Berg film, mountain film genre. These films, where the hero or heroine must conquer an unyielding peak, symbolize the victory of the strong, healthy Aryan race over the world. Her relationship with Fanck taught her an enduring lesson. Success could be won through powerful men. Power, talent, or at least money, that's what mattered. That's how she made her first film, The Blue Light. Her lover funded it, and she starred in it herself. In her memoirs, she'd later write, "In The Blue Light, I seem to sense and foreshadow my own fate. Junta, a strange mountain girl living in a dream world, is hunted and rejected, and dies when her ideals, symbolized by sparkling crystals, are shattered. Until the summer of 1932, I too lived in a dream world." The screenplay was written by Hungarian Jewish author Béla Balázs, who never received payment and demanded it in letters. In response, Leni turned to notorious anti-Semite Julius Streicher, authorizing him to represent her in dealing with the Jew Béla Balázs. That authorization, dated December 11, 1933, is still stored in the German Federal Archive and makes one thing clear: fascism was a tool for Leni's personal gain. In fact, in 1933, the names of the Jewish contributors, Balázs and Zockler, her financier-lover, were removed from the credits of The Blue Light. This act is telling. Leni would continue erasing people from her life and then claim she had no choice. A contemporary once said, "Whenever someone impressive appeared on the horizon, a great artist, athlete, tennis player, skier, actor, or even Hitler, Leni would say, 'I must meet this person.' And she always did." In 1932, Leni first saw Hitler speak, and in her diary, she described it with giddy awe, almost erotic fervor. "It felt as though the earth had opened before me, as if a hemisphere split in two and sent a massive jet of water skyward, shaking the very ground." That was her point of no return. For her, no man stood higher than Hitler, the perfect masculine figure, powerful, charismatic, rich. She sought a personal meeting, read Mein Kampf, and became intoxicated with fascist ideology. She even began to mimic Hitler's gestures and speech. Obsessed, she might have become his lover if he'd allowed it. But Hitler saw in her something different. A visionary who could project National Socialism to the world. He gave her unlimited creative resources, cutting-edge technology, equipment, massive crews. That's how Riefenstahl's infamous films came to be: Triumph of the Will and Olympia. Her record of the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Years later, she described them as mere documentaries. "I was just capturing the atmosphere. It wasn't that I was fascinated by the Nazis. I was filming how others were fascinated." Sure, she sympathized with her country's leaders, perhaps too much. But that was just Hitler's gift for persuasion. She never held political power, she claimed. She issued no orders, made no decisions. She simply made art. But she never acknowledged the privileges handed to her by the Nazi regime. Her productions rivaled Hollywood. She had 170 assistants, 35 cameramen, 30 cameras, limitless extras, infinite takes. Triumph of the Will was compiled from hundreds of hours of footage, edited over 7 months, with each shot meticulously selected by Leni herself. Ever the obedient overachiever, always chasing her father's praise. If he never gave it, Hitler would, and he did, with new commissions and generous payments. Even in Olympia, a film about sports, Riefenstahl glorified fascist ideals. The pure Aryan physique was celebrated, while black athletes were ignored. That was left out of frame, as was the nervous breakdown of her talented cameraman, Willi Zielke, whose photo archive she personally confiscated. Later, she would take credit for his work. Zielke was declared mentally unfit, institutionalized, and forcibly sterilized. Years later, he proved he had been sane all along. Riefenstahl would insist she saved him, gave him a job, and act shocked when he called himself her victim. She also claimed the film had been commissioned by the International Olympic Committee, not the Nazi Party. In 2001, she was finally awarded a gold medal by the IOC president for a film made in 1938. Why the delay? Perhaps because honoring her any earlier would have been too shameful. Some people believe siding with evil might protect them from worse horrors, but that's a trap. Evil consumes even its own supporters. Like many Germans, Leni Riefenstahl suffered under fascism. Not in a concentration camp, not in gas chambers, but nonetheless. She lost her father and younger brother to the war, and she personally witnessed the atrocities of those she had glorified. Remember that photo of 19 executed Jewish men, Frau Riefenstahl. She later claimed neither she nor her crew saw anything. In an interview, she even said she'd been shocked by the sight of dead German soldiers. Whom was she trying to convince? The world? Herself? Sometimes, trauma suppresses memory. Children do this instinctively, but forgetting isn't the same as not knowing. Suppressed memories remain wounds. In 1993, director Ray Mueller released The Wonderful, Horrible Life of Leni Riefenstahl. In the final scene, he addresses her directly. This country is waiting for you to say, "I was wrong and I regret it." People expect an admission of guilt. Riefenstahl merely shakes her head. "I've suffered for more than 50 years. It will never stop. It's a heavy burden I live with, and words mean nothing. Just saying I'm sorry isn't enough." Maybe it's not, but sometimes even that would be a start. She had the chance during the post-war trials, but she didn't take it. She fiercely defended her position. Art, beauty, ideals, nothing more. No collaboration. The court categorized her as a sympathizer and let her go. But it wasn't her last time in court. She would spend her life either defending herself or suing for defamation. One more cursed film, The Valley. She began it in 1941 in the Bavarian Alps, but war delayed production. A classic mountain film. Pure, noble Highlanders, Aryans, clash with corrupt, greedy valley dwellers, a thinly veiled metaphor for Jews. The plot was inspired by one of Hitler's favorite operas. Filming resumed in 1944 at Prague's Barrandov Studios. Extras were needed, cheap, in large numbers. She used Romani prisoners from camps. 53 from Maxglon near Salzburg, 67 from Marzahn near Berlin. They were dressed in costume and temporarily spared from camp labor. The camp administrations pocketed their pay. The prisoners hoped the shoot might spare them from genocide. It didn't. Most were sent to Auschwitz, but that was after filming. By then, Leni claimed she could do nothing, though, had she wanted to, she probably could have. The German government never denied her anything. In 1954, the film was finally completed. She submitted it to the Cannes Film Festival, only to face boycotts and calls to remove it from the lineup. French magazine Review published a scathing exposé. And German journalist Nina Gladitz dedicated her life to uncovering the film's darkest truths. She even tracked down a surviving Romani teenager and interviewed him and his family. In court, Riefenstahl had to admit she'd personally visited the camps to select the actors. This one is suitable, that one is not. That boy, now grown, Joseph Reinhardt, would later say, "She promised all the Romani people she would help us." No documentation could confirm it. Leni was always skilled at covering her tracks. That was her true talent, narrowing reality down to a rectangular frame so that everything unnecessary could be cut away. Former Nazis fled and hid in Argentina, but where can you hide when the whole world knows you were let go from the courtroom? In the 1960s and 70s, Leni searched for a remote, hidden corner of the planet, Somewhere, life still appeared simple and comprehensible, as it had before history began. But where in the 20th century could such an ideal image still exist? For example, in Africa, Riefenstahl crossed the Nubian desert multiple times, capturing the lives of the tribes who lived there. She called the Nuba people beings from another star, and saw in them biblical figures from a primordial era, pure, untouched by civilization, spiritually profound. Critics once again saw in this a revival of fascist ideas. The renowned writer, film critic, and director Susan Sontag wrote of Riefenstahl's fascination. Although the Nuba are not Aryans, the portrait created by Leni Riefenstahl resurrects some of the major themes of Nazi ideology. The contrast between the pure and the impure, the incorruptible and the corrupt, the physical and the spiritual, the light and the dark. Photographs from Riefenstahl's first African expedition in 1956 were published in leading glossy magazines. In 1971, she dived for the first time into the Indian Ocean with an underwater camera. Over the next couple of decades, she filmed the underwater world, published several photography books, and released the documentary Coral Paradise. If the whole world condemns you, maybe you dive to the ocean floor simply because down there, no one can curse you. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find something comprehensible and natural, far removed from good and evil, life itself, where no one asks why the big fish eats the small one. Is it cruel? It doesn't matter. What matters is that it looks beautiful in the frame. In interviews, she once again had to endlessly defend each of her masterpieces. In 1987, Leni finally published her long-awaited memoirs. They were translated and published in 13 countries, becoming bestsellers in the United States and Japan. It's nice to be seen as a true legend. Dark, controversial, perhaps, but a legend nonetheless. By the 1990s, the world had changed beyond recognition, and this played in Leni's favor. At last, there was a chance to enjoy recognition. In 1998, her work was exhibited at the Potsdam Film Museum. In 1995, a retrospective was held at the International Documentary Film Festival in Leipzig. At that moment, she felt as if she had finally convinced everyone that she had nothing to do with the rise of fascism in 1930s Germany. It seemed people believed she hadn't made political films, only documentaries, and that it wasn't her fault she had to document such an unpleasant reality. But look, she would say, just look at how beautifully it was filmed. Look at those flawless shots, the perfect compositions. Look at the human forms, the balance of light, the geometry of the image. Textbook examples. Helene Bertha Amalie Riefenstahl died on September 8, 2003, from a malignant tumor. At her side in her final moments was her second husband, cinematographer Horst Kettner. 2 weeks before her death, Riefenstahl celebrated her 101st birthday at her villa in Pucking, a small village on the picturesque shores of Lake Starnberg in southern Germany. Her body was brought to Munich, cremated, and laid to rest at the Waldfriedhof Cemetery. Alongside a vast artistic legacy, the old woman left behind 700 boxes of archives, letters, diaries, notes. Horst kept them at the villa for 13 years. After his death, everything passed to Riefenstahl's sole heir, her former secretary, Gisela John, who eventually donated the collection to a museum. Leni had no children of her own, but in a sense, her true legacy is the art of cinematography. No matter where someone studies this craft, they are bound to encounter Leni's work, frames that have become benchmarks. Perfect, magnificent, groundbreaking for their time. Images in which Riefenstahl tried to fuse genius with evil and failed. Sometimes it's a pity that life isn't film. You can't just rewind to the moment when everything falls into place. When the heroes meet, the mountains are conquered, the guns fall silent, and the dictators are reduced to a chapter in a history book. You can't go back to your favorite moment and relive it. You can't cut out the scenes you're ashamed of and pretend they never happened. In life, we must take responsibility for our mistakes and delusions. That's the only way to end them once and for all. Otherwise, they poison everything you do, branding your work with the mark of evil. Like, subscribe, and drop your favorite historical facts in the comments. We'll see you next time. And remember, do not be ruled by your mistakes. Take responsibility. Let them become part of history.